Hi everyone, Cozy Boy Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Too Slimy album, High Anxiety. Here we have the new debut album of, I believe, Oklahoma native Too Slimy, a rapper who I saw for the first time weeks, if not a few months ago, randomly popping up on my Instagram Reels feed with a video not too much unlike this one. In fact, it may have been this one. It's hard to tell. The guy's always kind of rapping and flexing at very much the same convenience store with a booming trap beat turned up to 11 for that full rage effect. But there was something different about Too Slimy in this current landscape of blunt rhymes and ultra distorted trap beats, even with artists like Osama Sun as well as Che taking things to the extreme this year. But the noise and distortion levels in Too Slimy's music are almost comical, to the point where I presumed this vertical video was some kind of like parody or remix. But Too Slimy sound is actually real and he is deadly serious. And while his presence may be relatively obscure now with about 50K followers on Instagram and about as many monthly Spotify listeners currently, his music definitely points in a direction that a lot of Rage's most buzzed about artists are headed in right now. Even hopping on beats from producers that are very popular in the scene at the moment, like We Gon' Be Okay. Now, if you're at all, for whatever reason, unfamiliar with Rage at this point, it is a rap subgenre that has been gaining steam over the past 5 years and was really put on the map by artists like Playboi Carti. It's a style that has often been highlighted for its aggressive sound, nihilistic vibes, and abrasive mixes. And Slimy embraces all of these characteristics to such an extreme that he, honest to God, has tracks that are closer in vibes to a basement power electronics performance than anything you might dare categorize as rap music. I mean, it's basically noise, and I don't mean that in a mom and dad saying, hey, turn that noise down sort of way. I mean in a way to where the sounds of this music style are getting so brutal to where dudes hovering over distortion pedals and contact mics on a concrete floor are not sounding that much nastier. You could take tracks on Slimy's last mixtape, for example, like Saddest Story, which sounds literally like some obscure noise producer screaming random proclamations over searing walls of distorted bass, as well as booming beats and random vocal delays and sound effects flying throughout the mix. It honestly makes some experimental artists' music sound tame by comparison. Now, I will also say there are some relatively tame and conventional sounding trap cuts on this mixtape too. And by comparison, High Anxiety is a much more focused effort in terms of there being a pretty uniform style and sound across all of the tracks here, as I think Too Slimy tries to find a bit of a middle ground between his most extreme and accessible influences. But in the end, he still ends up with a result that, by modern rap standards, modern Rage standards even, is pretty out there, because I do think this album delivers some of the most intense auditory abuse you could subject yourself to in 2025. Now, the entire thing here is 13 tracks, 23 minutes, which I think works, because anything longer than that I think would be asking a bit too much of the listener. And Slimy doesn't exactly ease fans into the vibes either, as the intro track is firing on all cylinders, even with this little synth intro that sounds like something you would get out of some digital Christmas music box knickknack, nestled in a mix that sounds like it was pulled out of some kind of 10-year-old bass-boosted deep-fried meme. And Slimy's voice slices through all this mayhem with neon-colored autotune and disorienting vocal delays too. And for as unforgiving as this track is, I'm actually surprised to catch as much structure and detail in it as I do, because you get these repeated refrains of Bring 'Em Out, these beat transitions too. So there is most definitely a controlled chaos element to Slimy's performances and writing here. It's not random. And I actually found that a lot of the songs in the track list here don't blend together as easily as you might think, given how loud and distorted they all are. Like the opening sliding synth chords that kick off I Serve Bass would grab attention following any song. And I was actually blown away too by how many bass frequencies were coming through in these mixes, even with them sounding as fried as they are. I mean, for example, playing the track Rock in the car, I was a little afraid I was going to blow a speaker because the bass was so deep and loud and rumbling. We get very much the same level of volume and intensity on the start of In Her Jaw too. Kind of made me feel like I was watching one of those like decked out car stereo system tests on my phone. So I'm not really sure whether or not this record underwent a very careful mastering process. Maybe I'm wrong. Another song that really grabbed my attention in the track list was Rolling Off Molly, which kicks off with these really sticky and catchy anthemic guitar-like lead melodies and stuttering hi-hat and snare patterns that kind of made me feel like I was at a lightning bolt show in 2005. But if you could take Brian Chippendale's voice and run it through some auto-tune, this is all maybe even more so the case for the following Pop ALOT, which feels like if you could do a trap remix of an early Dan Deacon song, and again, raise the distortion all the way up to 11. Now, with all that being said, as thrilling and as interesting as I found this album to be, it's not without its flaws and shortcomings. For example, not every track here is complemented with a beat that is as versatile and dynamic as the one on the opener. Tracks like Shoot at You, as well as Red Moon, kind of fly by without much of anything memorable to speak of. The feature on In Her Jaw that I mentioned earlier is one of the weakest moments on the album handily. And given how Extremity is kind of this project's selling point and how many of its best highlights are defined by that characteristic, some songs do feel like here and there they don't go far enough. Though I still could see a song like that being possibly a gateway into Too Slimy's music for some people. But yeah, overall I did have fun listening to this album and found a surprising amount of highlights vocally and instrumentally. The project ended relatively strong as well, with cuts like OMG, which kind of sound like my speakers are melting when I put it on. Yeah, those crinkly high range frequencies kind of feel like I am having tinfoil shoved in my eardrums. But I can readily acknowledge that this project is absolutely, positively not going to be for everybody. And ultimately, I just found it very funny and very entertaining that this style of music is just accidentally becoming noise, which I think provides noise producers maybe with a very fun and, possibly game-changing opportunity here. I'll leave them to figure it out, though. But yeah, I'm feeling a light to decent on this album. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or a link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Too Slimy, forever.